In the year 1227, the man who conquered half the world vanished into the earth. But to ensure his eternal rest, a river of blood had to flow. "1,000 horsemen trampled his grave to erase his memory, and every single soul who witnessed his burial was brutally slaughtered." I thought history exaggerated him. I was wrong. Entire cities disappeared. Millions died. And every road in Asia whispered one name: Genghis Khan. He was not born a king, not born rich, not born powerful. When he entered this world, his tribe was starving. His father was murdered. And soon, the boy named Temujin would learn that the world belongs only to the ruthless. I am standing in the year 1200, right in the brutal heart of the Mongol Empire. To these warriors preparing for blood, I am a ghost from the distant future. But to you, I am your guide.
From this frozen, unforgiving dirt, they are about to unleash a terror that will rewrite human history. Let's watch how a nameless, starving boy named Temujin built an empire of blood.
In the freezing winter of 1162, a child was born into a brutal world of endless tribal warfare. A world where mercy meant death. The year was 1162. Far from Rome, far from kingdoms, far from civilization itself, a child was born on the cold Mongolian steppe. His name was Temujin. No one knew that this small boy would one day reshape half the world. But this was no ordinary child. Legend says he emerged clutching a solid clot of dark blood in his tiny right hand, a terrifying omen that he would rule the earth with iron. Temujin's father was named Yesügei, a tribal leader, a warrior, and like every man on the steppe, he trusted almost no one. Because in Mongolia, alliances changed like the wind. Today's ally could become tomorrow's murderer.
You defy the Khan, why? I bow to no one. Then you choose death.
His father, Yesügei, named the newborn boy Temujin. It was the name of a brave Tatar warrior whom Yesügei had captured in battle on the very day of his son's birth. In the ancient Mongol tongue, the name Temujin translates to the blacksmith, a hidden prophecy that this child was destined to forge the shattered clans into a single unbreakable weapon. One day, Yesügei brought his son to another tribe. The boy was only 9 years old. There, Temujin met a young girl named Borte. He did not know it yet, but this girl would later change the course of his entire life.
This is for our journey. I will keep it safe. Together we are strong. Always.
In a harsh world of the steppes, survival required allies. As a young boy, Temujin forged a sacred bond with another young nomad named Jamukha. Together, they swore the oath of Anda, becoming blood brothers. But in the freezing steppes, power knows no loyalty. The boy, who was now his brother, would one day become his most ruthless and deadly enemy.
At just 9 years old, Temujin's world shattered. His father, Yesügei, was secretly poisoned by a rival clan during a deceptive feast. The protector of the family was gone.
On the Mongolian steppe, enemies rarely attacked from the front. They smiled first, then poisoned your drink. Temujin's father had been betrayed, and the boy still had no idea that his world was about to collapse. After Yesügei died, the tribe made its decision. A widow and starving children were useless, so they abandoned them, just like that.
Betrayed and abandoned by their own tribe, the young boy, his mother, and his siblings were stripped of everything and cast out into the freezing wilderness to starve.
The future conqueror of nations was now hunting rats, stealing fish, and digging roots from frozen ground. Some nights, there was no food at all, and hunger changes people. Then, something inside Temujin changed forever. Food was disappearing. Arguments became violent. And one day, Temujin killed his own half-brother. Not in war, not for glory, but for survival. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The wind kept moving across the steppe. The river kept flowing. But something had changed. Temujin had spent years fighting hunger. Now he would have to live with something else. The memory of what he had done. His family would never be the same. And neither would he. Temujin's mother had already lost her husband. Now she had lost a son. Not to enemies, not to war, but to her own family. Hoelin had fought hunger, cold, and abandonment. Now she watched her family breaking apart. The struggle to survive was changing her son. The family survived because one person refused to surrender. Hoelin. Every day she searched for roots, wild plants, anything her children could eat. Without her, Temujin's story would have ended here, long before the world ever heard his name. The steppe rewarded strength and punished weakness. A harsh winter could destroy an entire family. A lost horse could mean death. Out here, survival was the only law. Not every battle in Temujin's life was fought with enemies. Some began with friendship. One boy stood beside him more than any other. His name was Jamukha. Together, they dreamed of the future. Neither knew what destiny had planned for them.
Jamukha, my Anda, this gift seals our bond. It is received, Temujin. Our spirits are one. Let the winds carry our oath.
Among the
to
Mongols,
the horizon and beyond, my brother.
There was a bond stronger than friendship. It was called Anda, a chosen brother, a man who stood beside you in war, in hardship, and in life. That day, Temujin and Jamukha became brothers. Temujin was growing older, but he was learning more than hunting, more than riding. He watched the tribes, their alliances, their rivalries, their betrayals, and slowly, he began to understand how power really worked. Years earlier, Temujin had met a young girl. Her name was Börte. Most people would have forgotten. Temujin did not. Now he was returning, not as a child, but as a young man ready to claim the future promised to him. Years had passed. The children were gone. In their place stood two young adults. Temujin had survived hunger, loss, and hardship. Yet, through all those years, he never forgot Börte. Now, at last, they met again. For the first time in many years, Temujin's future seemed bright. He had survived hunger. He had survived loss. And now he had Borte, the girl he had never forgotten. Together, they began a new chapter. Neither of them knew how quickly it would be taken away. For a brief moment, Temujin had something he had never truly known. Peace, a family, a future. But on the steppe, good fortune rarely lasted. And that night, riders were already coming. The horses sensed it first. Something was wrong. The night felt different. The wind carried sounds from the darkness. Temujin could not see the danger yet, but it was already moving toward him.
Now he could see them. The Merkit, not traders, not travelers, warriors. Years earlier, the Merkit had never forgotten an old grievance. And on the steppe, old grievances could survive for generations. They had come for something, and before the night was over, Temujin would lose everything. The riders Temujin saw were only the beginning. Behind them came many more. The Merkit had carried this anger for years, long before Temujin was born, long before this camp existed. Now an old score was coming due, and everyone in the camp would pay the price. Within moments, the entire camp was awake. Families rushed into the night. Parents gathered their children. The horses sensed the danger. No one knew how many Merkit were coming. No one knew where the attack would fall. But everyone understood one thing: the night was no longer safe. In the chaos, Temujin found Börte. For a brief moment, the fear seemed far away. They were only a few steps apart, close enough to see each other, close enough to reach out, but not close enough to escape what was coming. Temujin had only one thought: get Börte away, away from the fires, away from the panic, away from the men riding into the camp. He still believed they could escape. He still believed this was only a raid. He was wrong. Then Temujin noticed something strange. The Merkit were ignoring everyone else. They were not chasing horses. They were not searching for loot. Their eyes were fixed on one person, Börte. Only then did Temujin begin to understand. This was no ordinary raid. Now the truth was impossible to ignore. The Merkit had come for Börte, not for the camp, not for the horses, not for wealth. For her. Temujin stood between them, but for the first time that night, he could see the future slipping away. In a matter of moments, everything changed. The Merkit had what they wanted: Börte. Temujin could only watch. The future he had tried to protect was disappearing into the darkness, and he was powerless to stop it. For the second time in his life, everything had been taken from him. First his father, now Börte. Most men would have accepted the loss. Temujin did not. That night, a decision began to form. Temujin wanted to follow them, to ride after the Merkit, to bring Börte home. But he understood a hard truth. One man could not do this alone. If he wanted her back, he would need allies. When Temujin returned, his mother already knew. The Merkit had not come by chance. They had come for a reason buried in the past. Holun spoke only a few words, but they were enough. This was not Börte's story alone. It was hers as well. The old man finally explained what Temujin did not know. Years before his birth, his father, Yesügei, had taken Holun from the Merkit. She had been promised to another man. The Merkit never forgot. They carried that anger for decades, and now they believed the debt had finally been repaid. Börte had been taken for a crime committed long before she was born. The truth changed nothing. Börte was still gone, and Temujin could not bring her back alone. There was only one man powerful enough to help: a ruler his father had once called a friend. So Temujin mounted his horse and rode across the steppe toward the camp of Toghrul Khan. Temujin rode to the camp of Toghrul Khan, the powerful leader of the Karaite tribe, the man who had once called Yesügei a brother. Now the son was asking for the father's debt, because without his massive army, Börte would be lost forever. Toghrul Khan remembered Yesügei. The two men had once sworn friendship. Now the son sat before him. Temujin told him everything about the attack, about Borte, and about the old debt that had returned. He was not asking for wealth. He was not asking for land, only for help. Help to bring Borte home. Toghrul Khan sat in silence. The request was not small. The Merkits were dangerous, but he remembered Yesügei, and he remembered the oath they had once sworn. At last, Toghrul Khan gave his answer. He would help. One ally was not enough. If Börte was to be rescued, Temujin needed more warriors. So he turned to the one man who knew him better than anyone, his blood brother, Jamukha. Years had passed. The boys who once shared a childhood oath were now leaders of their own followers. But some bonds survived the passing of time. Temujin came with a request, and Jamukha listened, just as a brother would. Jamukha did not hesitate. Temujin had come as a friend, as a brother, and Jamukha answered as one. He would ride with him. Together, they would bring Börte home. For the first time in his life, Temujin was not alone. Warriors answered his call. Toghrul Khan came. Jamukha came. And with them came riders from across the steppe. The hunt for the Merkit had begun. The Merkit had believed the matter was finished. They were wrong. Across the steppe, Temujin was coming, and this time he did not ride alone. Far ahead, the Merkit camp slept in peace. They believed their revenge was complete. They did not know that Temujin was already near. At last, Temujin saw the camp. Somewhere below, Börte was waiting. The long ride was over. Now came the hardest part. At sunrise, the steppe exploded into motion. Temujin rode beside two powerful allies, Toghrul Khan, Jamukha, the men who had answered his call. Below them stood the Merkit camp, the same camp that had stolen Börte, the same camp that believed it was safe. It was wrong. Temujin had come for her, and this time he had an army behind him. The attack came without warning. The Merkit had expected revenge someday, but not this day, not from this many riders. Men rushed for weapons, horses broke their tethers, families fled through the confusion. Across the camp, the world the Merkit had known only moments earlier was collapsing around them. For the others, this was a battle. For Temujin, it was a search. He had not crossed the steppe for victory. He had not come for revenge. He had come for Börte, and somewhere inside the camp, she was waiting. Then, at last, he saw her. Not in a dream, not in a memory, but alive. Weeks of fear, weeks of uncertainty, ended in a single moment. Across the chaos of the camp, Temujin and Börte found each other once more. The journey was over. Börte had been found. The debt of the Merkit had been answered. The promise Temujin made to himself on the night of her capture had been kept. But neither of them knew that this victory would change far more than their lives. It would change the future of the entire steppe. Börte had returned. The Merkit had been defeated, and the alliance had succeeded. But something else had happened. Temujin had seen what was possible. He had united powerful men behind a single purpose. For the first time, others had followed his lead. Without realizing it, the foundations of a future empire had begun to appear. Temujin had saved the woman he loved, but the world around him was beginning to change. Allies had gathered, warriors had answered his call, and enemies had begun to notice his name. The story of Temujin was only beginning. The story of Genghis Khan had not yet begun. The rescue of Börte changed everything. Temujin returned stronger, more respected, more dangerous. But on the steppe, power attracts rivals. And among all those rivals, one name would matter more than any other: Jamukha, the brother of his youth, the enemy of his future.